Now, the FDA says data, in the context that I've just described, it's not acceptable to just to record this on a piece of paper and then be able to take that piece of paper and then record it into my system of record, whether it's a spreadsheet, an electronic notebook, or a LIMS system, and then discard that piece of paper. So as soon as it's documented on some sort of durable process, it has to be maintained as a record. So if I'm in the lab and I read a result off a pH meter, let's say, and I write it on a piece of paper, that piece of paper becomes a record at that point. Therefore, you got to document and save the data at the time that it was performed. So as soon as the result is derived from the instrumentation, as soon as it has been made available, that is a record at that point that is then subject to proper CGMP record keeping. And the FDA expects processes to be designed and in place in your labs so that data required to be created and maintained cannot be modified without a record of modification. It's not acceptable to store electronic records in a manner that allows for manipulation without creating a permanent record.
So obviously record keeping is critical in the pharmaceutical industry, including audit trails. So in the everyday activities of a pharmaceutical lab, a lot of data is collected, and there's something called temporary memory. Can you talk about that and how it impacts record keeping?
I sure can. So, when you're producing a particular medicinal drug, it's only as good as the data that's behind it that indicates that quality was in place, and that way the public can have confidence in that product. One of the things that the FDA saw was an issue of temporary memory, and what that means, to explain it, is I may be an operator sitting at a PC and I'm transcribing results from quality testing into some sort of system, whether it's a spreadsheet or it's a LIMS or batch record, or I'm handwriting this information into a paper notebook. In the case of a temporary memory, I may enter those results and I may look at them and say that's not quite right, or I made a typographical error, and I may re-update those results before I actually commit them to a durable media like a database. I may do that just because of a very simple, innocent mistake of maybe putting the wrong number in or transcribing numbers incorrectly, or I may be maliciously making a modification to make sure my product passes so I can move on and ship product. In most systems, it was not possible to document those changes until they got committed to the durable database, to the media. And so that's called temporary memory. And the FDA actually called out in their draft guidance the need to manage and maintain and document this information before it was transcribed to durable media. So we saw this as an issue. We actually met with our pharmaceutical customers and were able to define an outcome that we were able to update our software very rapidly in 2016 when the guidance came out, to be able to make sure that we had a solution for our clients so they could be compliant. And that meant that as the data is being entered, before it gets committed to the database, all of those iterations are actually audited. So I know who did it, when, why, and I can actually have full documentation of that record before it gets committed to the database. Or I could have walked away and not committed it, and even still, it's going to be audited in the system.